How'd you feel out there
Thanks, you guys.
tonight?
Oh, I felt good about it. It really gave me that opportunity to make a few cases I hadn't made before. And that is that when I look at the fact that we have had 45 presidents and they've all been men, and all vice presidents that are men, I don't really whine about this. I am not a whiner. But I am someone that says, okay, what's going on here? And I wanted to be able to make that case with regard to Mayor Pete, who I'm glad was on that stage with me. I think he's qualified. But my point was, I think women are held to higher standards in politics, and that's fine by me. I will meet those standards.
We got to ask you about the $17,000 in donations you said you raised from
That is true.
ex-boyfriends, but
That
you were
is in
making
my
a point.
2006 Senate race.
And you said it's an
It was
all-time
a funny
record.
line.
What?
All-time record?
That I've found. Perhaps you will, in your great ABC investigative ways, will find someone with a higher record, but it's the highest record that I know of.
All right, I want to ask you.
were
Go ahead,
you-
Marianne.
Were you taking a subtle jab at the former vice president? He has often argued that he is the most electable, and you seem to be saying, hey, Joe, is
Right,
that because
exactly.
you're a man?
Okay, so I have, sometimes you're on the stage and you're like a normal human. That's how I felt today. One, I wanted to get involved in so many questions that I couldn't, and I was, But the second thing is, I have, he's a great campaigner and he's won a lot of races, but I am the one that's led a ticket in some very conservative districts and brought people with us. Every time I have run in my state, which is a purple state, when you look at how close it was in the last presidential election, we have flipped the state house from Republican to Democrat. That means that I don't just run for a personal victory for me, but for a national victory. And I wanted to make that point, and I have all respect for him, but I do get tired of people saying, I'm the only one that can do this. I'm the only. The other human reaction I had was, frankly, when Mayor Pete was talking about all that agriculture, when I've negotiated 3 farm bills, when he was talking about all of the campaign things he wanted to do and the election reform, which I supported, at some point being able to work across the aisle and actually either get the bills done or get a co-author to get it introduced is going to matter when you're president.
Can I ask you about the impeachment hearings? I imagine you've caught some of it over the past few days. Have you seen enough evidence of high crimes and misdemeanors? Can you say that much?
I have been very clear about this. I think this is impeachable conduct, which is why I am so glad this is happening, so the American people can finally see, and you've got all these brave diplomats coming forward, people who have served our country in the military, in the State Department, and really, as Lieutenant Colonel Vinneman, and I ended with that today because I thought it was so important and captivated the hearts of Americans. When he said, hey, Dad, this is a country where you can tell the truth and you're not going to get killed or you're not going to be sent to jail. That's what he said. So, I think that this evidence is mounting. It is going to be up to the House to decide, but I don't know how you can argue that this wasn't against the law.
What do you make if no Republicans get on board with
Okay,
this?
well,
Is it a failure of the democratic process?
This is my hope that they will. We've seen some voices like Mitt Romney's over in the Senate who's been willing to say that this is serious stuff and you don't put private interests in front of the public's interest. We will see. You look at the past, what happened in the Nixon case, which I think is really the most relevant here, because again, you had a president who was trying to get dirt on an opponent. At this point, he hired people, or through his committee, to break into a file cabinet. Modern day version, this president makes calls to try to get dirt in an investigation by another country. And in that case, you had Republicans. It ended up, of course, he resigned after it got voted on the House. But in that case, you had Republicans that stood up. And right now, you're seeing some Republicans in the diplomatic corps and in the military that are willing to stand up. But now we have to see that translated to elected officials.
You talked about yourself as a juror, and the senators will be, and you're talking about impeachable offenses potentially, but hinting at an idea that juries should stay impartial until there's a trial. Do you think it's inappropriate if some of your Democratic colleagues talk about being ready to convict?
I think people can do whatever they want to do. That's up to them. For me, as a lawyer, I always look at the evidence, and I've made very clear I think this is impeachable conduct. However, I want to look at each count and evaluate each count and work with my colleagues. And one of my hopes is that we can convince more and more people, if these articles come over, of what happened here. And that includes my Republican colleagues. Otherwise, we won't be able to do our jobs.
Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, thanks so much.
Thank
Great
you.
to see you. Good performance
Thank
tonight.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.